Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona for the July 2nd edition of Horses to Watch. On the show this week, I'm going to take a look at three replays from last week at Belmont Park. Horses that didn't win the races, but those that had really tough trips and probably can do better in the future with more favorable setups. We're going to begin with a race from last Thursday at Belmont. It's the fifth race on the card, $25,000 claimer going 6 furlongs on the dirt. And I want to focus on the number 2 horse, Swiping Dan. And we can actually pick this one up right from the start because you're going to see what happens to this horse in the first quarter mile as he breaks with the field, but just sort of comes out of the gate a little bit sluggishly and is going to drop right out the back of the field, spotting the entire group about 10 lengths or so. Now, this horse had put forth a similar effort in his prior start, where he ran really well to win that race, doing so against a much weaker field. And Heman Harkey, his rider, is a 7-pound apprentice rider who hasn't had a whole lot of experience, hasn't won a whole lot of races, and he's going to make a little bit of a rookie mistake here by trying to put forth the same effort against this much tougher field. And you're going to see this horse is moving into the race right now and doing so very quickly at an awkward point in the race. Typically, you want to be making this closing move in the stretch at the end of a race, but this horse is moving past the entire field in the middle of the race, and he's going to go from being about 10 lengths behind as they entered the far turn to now taking the lead as they pass the quarter pole. And it's really difficult for a horse, especially a cheaper horse like this, to maintain that kind of move and to continue to go on in the stretch and win the race. And you're going to see what happens in the final quarter mile here is he's battling it out for the victory, but the others just have more left in the tank at this point because they didn't expend all that energy making up ground on the far turn. He's just going to get a little bit tired and fade to third here at the end of the race. Now, this move did work in his prior start when he won against cheaper $14,000 claimers in a condition claiming race, but this is an open claiming race, the tougher $25,000 level, and he couldn't quite sustain that move against this tougher competition. Swiping Dan is a horse that hasn't been the most consistent kind in the past. He's put forth good efforts and then come back with much poorer efforts, but this time I think this horse has now put together 2 good races, and people may not realize how well he actually ran in this race. I just want to quickly mention the Trackist figures for this race. He ran his first quarter mile when he was very sluggish in the early going in 24.35 seconds, and his second quarter in 22.57 seconds. It's extremely rare to see a horse run a second quarter that's almost a full 2 seconds faster than the first quarter. I just think that illustrates how much energy this horse expended on the far turn and why he had so little left in the stretch of this race. So Swiping Dan's a horse that I think can do much better next time out in a similar spot. The second race I'm going to talk about on today's show is a race from Friday's card. It's the 8th race, another sprint race, this one on the turf, going 6 furlongs, an allowance optional claiming race. And it's a pretty tough field for the level, some good horses in this spot. I want to focus on the number 1 horse, My Time Went On, and we can pick this race up right from the start. And you'll see this horse actually gets a pretty good trip for about the first half mile of this race, and things start to go awry after that. My Time Went On is a horse that had made his first start off a long layoff in his prior race at the same level, and he was beaten that day by the number 5 horse in this race, Dr. Shane. I believe Dr. Shane was the favorite in this race. They finished 1-2 last time, and My Time Went On had gotten a similar trip to the one he's getting in this race and just encounters minor traffic trouble in the stretch and has to wait in traffic a little bit, gets off the rail at about the 8th pole, and is able to finish off that race decently. Arguably could have won with a better trip, but just some slight trouble. Things are much worse in this race because while he's getting the same kind of trip, stalking in behind horses, saving ground down on the inside, you're going to see as they come to the top of the stretch, Javier Castellano is going to try to get him off the rail right here, and he just doesn't find room and never gets a clear path. He's trying to angle to the outside, but the eventual winner, Alexandra, is there, so he has to go back to the inside, and he winds up right in behind a tiring horse, and he just loses momentum, has nowhere to go, and you can see right here at about the 8th pole, he just kind of gives up. He's got no run left, nowhere to go. The horse has run underneath him, but he has no place to use it, and he's just going to kind of ease this horse across the wire, trudging home way back in 5th place. My Time Went On just never got to really put forth a true effort in this race because he never got to be set down for a drive. So it's going to look like a very poor performance when it shows up in his past performances next time out, but My Time Went On actually just never got a chance to show what he could do in this race. And I think if you look back at his prior race when he was second to Dr. Shane, that's a true indicator of where he is right now because he got gotten into very good form at the end of 2018, put forth a really good effort in his first start of 2019. And I think if he shows up at Saratoga next time in a similar spot, going about 5.5 furlongs, he'll be very dangerous. So don't get too down on this horse for this last race. Just kind of draw a line through this June 28th effort. The final race that I want to take a look at on this show is a race from last Sunday. It's the second race on the card at Belmont Park. This one is for New York breds, going 7 furlongs on the turf, 3-year-old fillies, a maiden event. And there are 2 horses in this race that took most of the money, the number 1, Dearly Declared, and the number 2, Kerry's Ring. Both of these New York breds had shown their quality against open company at Gulfstream Park earlier in the year, actually down in Florida, one at Gulfstream, one at Tampa. Dearly Declared was coming off a bit of a layoff in this race. She was making her first start since about February at Gulfstream Park, and actually making her first turf start against New York bred company. The curious thing about this race is that if you look at the Timeform US Pace Projector, both of these horses, Kerry's Ring, the number 2, and Dearly Declared, the number 1, have been predicted to be on the early lead. And if we pick it up from the start, you're going to see what happens, and the decisions that their riders make at the beginning of this race. For whatever reason, Jose Ortiz on Dearly Declared just wants no part of going forward and no part of taking the early lead, and he winds up dragging this horse with speed all the way to the back of the pack into last place. I don't know if that was her trainer Barkley Tagg's decision, if that was the game plan going in, or if Jose Ortiz just made that call at the last moment, but it was an odd decision to make given that there was no pace in this race. You're going to see the fractions go up. They go 23 and 2 for the opening quarter mile. They go the half mile almost 48 seconds, which is just crawling, going a turf sprint distance at Belmont Park, especially at this time of the year when the turf courses have gotten so firm and hard and they're capable of running much faster times. And as they're heading into the far turn here, you're going to see that Dearly Declared is just kind of rank. She doesn't really want to rate towards the back of the pack, and Jose Ortiz has no choice but to guide her outside of horses. She's now going 3 to 4 wide around the far turn, no cover at all. That's not where you want to be in these turf races. You want to be down inside where Kerry's Ring is, getting some cover, waiting in behind horses. Now, Kerry's Ring is going to have some trouble of her own, and people have made a lot about the fact that she probably should have won this race because she has a little traffic and has to wait and just wait for room at the top of the stretch. But in my opinion, Dearly Declared is the one that actually had the tougher trip because she was out of position early. She was wide around the turn. She was fighting her rider for a lot of the trip, and I think that's why she wasn't able to finish in the money in this race, and she's going to fail a little bit at the end, whereas the winner who closes in this race has plenty left for the final quarter mile, and Kerry's Ring gets out and has plenty of run at the end of this race as well. But Dearly Declared, if she gets in a similar spot next time, going, let's say, a mile at Saratoga around the 2 turns, those races typically play to speed types, and I think her rider, Jose Ortiz, if he's on her again, would be wise to use her speed in that kind of spot, because if she can get a forwardly placed kind of trip in a similar maiden special weight race going the 2 turns next time out, I think she'll be very dangerous because she showed earlier this winter she definitely has the quality to win at this level. So I think we're going to see a much better effort from Dearly Declared next time out at Saratoga, where I assume she'll show up. So all of these horses, they ran a lot better than it seems this week, and I think we'll see them do a lot better when they show up next time, and hopefully we can make a score on them when they show up again. So thanks for listening this week, and I'll come back next week with 3 more horses to watch.